One of the tips that you've given in this conversation, which I love, is about not making more of the drug you're taking available to you, because obviously you should make the decision about how much you're going to take while you're sober and
Yeah.
not allow it to, when you're on the drug to be like, oh, I think I'm going to decide the dose now. It's probably not the best idea. What other um, safety protocols have been really useful to you as you wrote this book?
Um, I sort of developed them as I went along, and I sort of put the generic ones at the front. As you've seen, this is the Ten Commandments. And I'll go through these because I think it's worth sort of emphasising them. And the first one is the research. The first thing you're thinking about taking a drug, well, almost goes without saying, learn something about the drug. you know, what is it going to do to me, broadly speaking? Just try and find out the broad parameters of where you're going to be. What people do when they're, people do just, oh, what is it? It's this drug I've never heard of. I'll have it. Mm-hmm. You just never, ever, ever, ever want to get into that sort of situation. The second one is source carefully. This is where some people fall, is they buy something from an unknown source, an untrustworthy source, and they don't really know what it is, and they assume it's, say, MDMA, and it happens to be something completely different. So don't just buy from the guy on the corner who you've never met. Take his word for it. Try and use a common sense. You're gonna put this thing in your body. Try and source from somewhere that you have at least a clue they are actually selling you the right thing, and that runs straight into test it. When I started, I thought, I can't test the drug. I'll just test it. I've got a pill, I've got powder. I just put it out of my mind. But, it's not really necessary. Well, it is, and it's simple. In this country and a lot of other countries, you can actually anonymously send a drug to an organisation, and they will test it and put the result on the internet.
Wow.
And the way it works, I did this with loads of them. The way it works, you go to the website, press start, and it will give you a unique code. That's your code. So you print the form off, you put it on the thing, then you put the details. They want to know, what do you think it is? Nothing that breaches anonymity, and then you just send it off in the post, and then they'll put on the website the unique code for your form and what it actually is, and then we've done all the tests. So if you're certainly that is a readiness in the UK, but there's similar organisations elsewhere. It only takes a few days, and it's worth it, because then you know exactly what you're taking, and it's free. Okay, so that's one possible way of testing it. If you can't do that, or if there aren't any facilities in your country, buy a test kit. I thought, buy a test kit, because that's going to be difficult. I'm not a chemist. I've not even got. I've never done chemistry, so I bought, first of all, there's a simple one test kit. You just drop a bit in a test tube that you break it off, drop it in, it turns a colour, it tells you what it is. If you want more sophistication, reagent tests, you get 3 different ones, and you try the different colours, and with more surety what this drug is. It's not difficult to do. You just sit down and just pour some liquid onto your substance, a tiny little bit of your substance. It will turn a colour that will give you information about what this drug is. So you can test it, and that's got to be if you can't get to test service, that's got to be a good idea. Number 4 is scales, weigh it. A number of people who I've made mistakes, and I've suffered because I've eyeballed certain drugs, some stimulants, research chemicals. I've had terrible times because I haven't weighed them properly. So sit down, buy a pair of scales. You know, they're not expensive. $20, $30. I think mine were £15 for a set of scales, which I've still got, and they're pretty reliable. And use them. They're easy to use. So weigh your drugs. Don't just try and eyeball the dose, because you'll get it wrong. Number 5, properly and rationally consider the dose. Have regard for your circumstances and all the information you've accumulated so far. This is a good one. Always remember you can take more, but not less.
Mm-hmm.
No, so I do allergy check if I've never had the drug before. It's a tiny bit on my tongue, because if you're allergic to it, you'll know about it. And then I have a small dose. You know, I don't go in full heavy dose, and if I'm okay, then there's nothing terribly wrong. Then I'll have a pretty high dose. But you know, you can always take more, but you can't take less. Is almost a mantra. Number 6 is the allergy test, which just come in. Number 7, I've mentioned earlier. Are you feeling okay today? It's a serious question. If you're unwell, sick, or in poor health, those conditions may be amplified during the experience and may have serious implications with respect to body load. So a lot of drugs have body load. Body load is where it makes you feel not very well in some way or another. If in doubt, don't proceed. And it applies to mental health as well. You know, in the psychedelic space, if you're really depressed, you know, it can intensify that if you're not careful. So don't proceed if you're not, you know, at a decent level in your game. Plan the experience and its parameters, so that you don't take rash decisions under the influence. And this is where you've only got available what you choose to take. Having taken whatever dose you have chosen, be patient and don't jump to the conclusion it didn't work. Common mistake is to double dose, yeah. Carefully consider set and setting. Have to hand water, food, or whatever provisions or entertainment you're going to need. Now, water is important for a lot of drugs. You know, MDMA is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to need access to water. I mean, there are clubs, not in this country, I don't think, where they don't allow access to water. You have to buy a drink.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's just asking for a mess, isn't it? So, you know, you make sure you've got a responsibility to make sure you have access to what you're going to need during the course of your experience. So, you know, plan it accordingly. For all psychedelics, bear in mind that your judgment and functionality may be severely impaired, which could be a significant factor if you're likely to find yourself in a public place. So that's part of the setting setting. Now here's an interesting one that I actually thought came across. Somebody told me that this should be in before I even got halfway through the book. Have contact details of help services to hand in case of urgent need. You know, and that sounds obvious, but I never did it. You know, I'm taking a drug or perhaps a drug I've never had. If it goes wrong and I realise I need to go to hospital, or I need a doctor, I need medical services or help, you know, the last thing I want to be doing is thinking, oh, what do I do now? You want it to hand. You want to be, oh, right, here it is. I ring this number, or I call this person. So have that sort of information available on your body if you're going out before you start. And if you're in a group, obviously try to find someone to abstain. And here's an interesting one. Give your body plenty of time to recover and your mind due time to assimilate the experience. In other words, if you're a regular drug user, take a break between psychoactive sessions and a long break between sessions using substances from the same class. And they provide a little sort of calendar thing to show you how I did it when I was doing this. And I just sort of think, well, okay, well, you know, I might have to drink on Friday night. What am I going to do next Friday if I go out, or the weekend after? You know, I sort of just try and plan it to sort of keep drugs of the same class apart in particular. Because that's largely how people do get addicted. They have the same drug again and again and again. And it's, you really don't want it. A, you're not enjoying the drug itself to its full capacity if you're doing it that way. But B, you just really are asking to become addicted or dependent in some way if that's what you're doing, unless there's a big gap between them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're one of these people, and there are a lot of people who must have a drug every week or two days a week, or even every few days, if you really are in that situation, maybe you should be thinking you need to get some help. But apart from that, that rule does apply in particular. Use different classes of drugs if you're a multi-drug user, rather than, I've got this supply of cocaine at the moment, so I'll go through this. No, don't go through this. Make it spin out a long time and use something else if you must have a drink and in a few days instead, or something else, some other less benign drug, hopefully. So be very, very careful in this area and try and plan it if you're in that scenario.